What's going on, everybody? Doc Bob here. We're live. Chris P is joining me. We're going to be doing a Valorant tier list ranking. So, Valorant's been out for what, 3 weeks at this point, and rank just came out. We're trying to get a good feel for what the best meta is. I don't want to say meta right now because we haven't seen enough top tier play. There's been a lot of tournaments going around, a lot of pro signings recently, but um, yeah, I guess it's kind of fucking meta at this point.
Yeah, I would
Anyway,
call it meta comp building, the meta comp
yeah.
right now.
Yeah, but we want to focus on what are the best characters to be playing in a competitive mindset, with a competitive mindset in a competitive setting. Solo queue doesn't really matter. I'm never going to play solo queue, so like I'm not going to worry about any of the characters that can solo queue stomp because it's a team game. It's like Counter-Strike. You need, in my opinion, you need at least 4 people playing at the same level to compete. So
Yeah,
outside of that, there's really no fucking reason for it.
obviously it's different with CS, right? Because there's no abilities that come with CS. But if you're able to build, like I forget what it was. I might have been during like the T1 tournament where Shroud was playing whatever for the sake of the story. Let's say Jet, right? And he had Sage ice him off while Brimstone did Hellfire onto him, and he was just fucked because he couldn't move. So, like, if you're able to kind of play with each other's abilities, you can really lock people down, which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, speaking of Jet, Jet seems to be more of a solo queue mindset just because you have all the mobility, but less utility brought to a team. So going into this, going forward, this is our opinion. These are our opinions. Okay. This is what we think would be the best characters to be using in a team setting. If you're playing solo queue, figure it out yourself. Go be a Jet main. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. But I mean, we might as well start with Jet since you're a Jet main.
I'm a one trick pony.
You're a one trick Jet main, and I think she's probably the worst character in the game.
So I agree when it comes to, like you said, solo wise, she's fun. Like her dashing abilities and like her ult. In my opinion, her ult stinks. Unless you have like pinpoint accuracy or you're gonna right click people when they're close. It's very difficult because you have, I believe it's 5 blades and it takes two to the body. I want to say
Yeah.
maybe even, yeah, two to the body,
No,
one.
three. It does 50 damage. If they
So
have armor, it takes three.
oh, all right. So three to the body, two to the head, or one to the head. Whatever. Regardless, I mean, that's not going to really work in a competitive setting. Pub stomping, it's fun, but if I really had to go through this list and say the worst agent to play comp with, I would say Jet. I would say Jet.
Yeah, I agree. I think she brings the least to a competitive team environment. She, yeah, she's a solo queue character. She has unique movement abilities, which I think is good. If you have a person that you're trying to prop up on your team to be your hard carry top frag every single time, Jet is actually a pretty good uh, character to be using for that person. If you have like one person who could drop 30 kills every single game consistently playing Jet because she can utilize the mobility, because they could utilize the mobility, sure, she makes sense to have on your team.
Yeah.
However, the only utility she actually brings to the team are her 3 smokes that she can throw.
That lasts a second and a half.
Yeah, that lasts maybe 3.5 or 4 seconds. I do, however, like there's unique smoke abilities for every single smoke character, and I actually think that her ability to curve smokes is pretty interesting. I think it can be used a lot in to good form with a good Jet that knows what they're doing. But the fact that they only last a couple of seconds after landing it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, if they want to make Jet more viable in a competitive setting, they need to up the smoke time
Mhm.
because you have other characters that throw smokes. Like Brimstone smoke lasts for like 15 seconds. You're never going to have a better character to throw smokes than Brimstone.
Yeah.
So all of
And
her utility is focused around her, and then the one team mechanic utility that she has is outclassed by everybody else.
agreed. And even if you're going for a DPS, so like whatever your build is, you're not always going to have people that really bring all of their abilities to the table that'll matter. So you have to throw a DPS character in there, in my opinion, agent. And with her, I mean, if you're going DPS, you're thinking Jet, you're thinking Phoenix, and you're thinking Raze. So you could even take Phoenix out of it because there's actually some sort of like tactical things that you can use with this run it back to get information. But if you're going DPS, you're comparing Jet and Raze. The only thing different that Jet brings to the table is you can hold off angles with like her ability to go up and like get onto boxes and stuff. But I mean,
Yeah, but even with that, after a certain amount of time, after the game's been out for a certain amount of time, people are gonna know those angles to pre-aim or check. And if you hear her do the dash, you know she's probably on top of a box somewhere. Or I mean, you could fake it out too and make people check that,
you don't need
like
like that,
bacon.
that's cool for like big plays and like clippable plays. But if you're playing for like money, you're playing for cold hard cash.
Yeah, you want a team.
You need a team. So, in my opinion, she's D tier.
Yep, and you one trick her for God knows what reason. I don't fucking know.
I haven't used her in a
Um,
while now.
I'm trying to think. Do you think anybody else falls into D tier? Because I kind of don't. I
Uh,
think it's literally just Jet.
if we're talking strictly competitive wise, I would. Mm, not for nothing. I might throw Viper down in D too.
See, I was thinking Viper would be like C or B tier,
Y-
just because there's legitimate setup potential for like her wall. All right, we'll discuss Viper now then,
Yeah,
and we'll figure out where to put her. So when it comes to Viper, a good Viper knows how to split half of a map with her wall. Like you could split half of A short, and then the majority of hookah and B long with her wall from A short.
yeah,
The only issue I have with that is at no point when I'm trying to take a site on attack does a Viper wall ever stop me from taking the site.
I
You
agree.
just jump through it.
Hmm.
But so she also has a smoke. She's got the poison cloud that she can throw down. It does damage over time. A lot of good Vipers know how to throw one-way smokes, so they could see underneath it and they could see the enemy's feet coming at them, so they get the drop on them. The only problem with that is you only get one of them. You get one. It's all micromanaged by her toxin level, so it's like a mini game you have to play inside of the game, and you have one compared to someone like Omen who can have what I think he starts with them and then they regenerate every 30
You
seconds.
could shoot him through walls and shit.
Exactly. And then you have Brimstone who has 3. I mean,
Do you think
you get
Viper's
one.
ult has any play? I mean, if it's like a big round where it's a you're Viper and you're the last one alive, I see your ult being able to help you out to clutch just because it brings everyone down to 1 HP when they're inside of the cloud. And if you're able to actually work it, you can like leave it and go back into it and the enemies light up red. So you'll be able to make big plays that way. So now that we're talking about it, I don't think she should be D tier anymore. I think there is potential with Viper. I think
Yeah.
if you're going strictly for like blocking off sites and shit like that, I don't she's not a go-to. You have your brims of the world. You could even pick Omen for that. And Omen has more mobility. You're able to like teleport onto boxes and different stuff like that. But I wouldn't put her D, honestly, after talking about it more, just because of her ultimate and her somewhat blocking abilities. I think she deserves to be C.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think she can go any higher than that because the all of her other utility gets outclassed by everybody else. She has her poison dart that she throws out, and it's just a worse version of a Phoenix Molly or a Brimstone Molly. But she has 2 of them, which is, the upside to it. I think her ult is situational. I think it gets easily countered by Sova. So when it comes to like sightline stuff for Sova's abilities, if he shoots the recon dart into the smoke, you could still get pinged to her location inside of the smoke. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? Unless she's hiding around a corner and it doesn't have LOS. Same thing goes with the owl drone and his ult. So I think she's pretty easily countered by a good Sova who can maintain their utility.
yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think. Cypher, not so much because you'd have to put the camera inside the smoke. But yeah, I think her alt is very situational. I think it's also pretty good. I forgot to bring this up for Jet, but Jet's ultimate is good for like economy, like econ wise.
Very true.
You could use the alt on econ rounds where the rest of your team can buy if you can't and shit like that. So that's pretty good. Still D tier, she sucks. Viper, I think, is also pretty good when it comes to econ rounds if she has her alt. You buy a Bucky, you alt site after you plant the bomb, you can hold
One
down.
taps,
You know,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, from a comp setting, I don't see myself jumping out of my shoes to pick Viper, but I can see where she can come in handy sometimes. But like you said, it's easily counted. So I'm not gonna say there's no place for her in comp, but as of now, she's not gonna be a go-to agent. So C tier, 100%.
No, yeah, and once people start figuring out like her wall setups and her smoke setups for if she's on attack and she's doing setup stuff for like B site or something, you see the wall come in, you know there's going to be a split from like hookah and long at that point, or just from long, and people will know how to adjust to it. And you can't pick it back up. Like you can pick her other toxin smoke up. You can't with her wall. Let's see. Is anybody else here in C tier? I think
We got
I think maybe Omen would
Omen.
be considered C tier.
Yes. I would put Omen in there just because I mean, like we were talking about, Omen to me is it's fun to play and there's big plays that you can make with Omen. Like if you use your ult and you want to do like a really quick like everyone's rotating onto B site and you have your ult and bomb, you're able to actually pull something really cool up where you can ult to the other site. So you can fake out that way, which is cool. But other than that, it's just tough to put him above C just because there's so many other agents on here that I think deserve a higher spot, and I don't want to put fucking Breach in the same tier as Omen
Yeah.
because it's apples and oranges.
Yeah, and on attack, realistically, you could only do that trick 2 or 3 times because of how frequently you get your ult.
Yeah, and if you're playing against not for nothing, if you're playing against people that have any idea what they're doing, you can hear the sound cues that he's doing his ult, and you're pretty easily able to predict where he would go. Like I said, it's cool if you're doing the whole okay, let's fake A, make a lot of noise, and then ult B, and have someone waiting there for you to kind of take out whoever's straggling behind. But it's another case where he's not going to be a go-to. I haven't played him yet, so maybe I'm a little biased. He seems like a really cool agent, but I think the best he can do isn't as good as the rest of everyone on it. I think some of the agents on it, their worst is better than Omen's best.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I was just fucking around with the Streamlabs. I'll
Like,
work to fix it to make it bigger. Um, yeah. So when it comes to Omen's other abilities, he has a flash, which is his paranoia. But it's the problem with that is it's way too hard to hit, and that gets outclassed by a Phoenix flash or a Breach flash. His smokes, again, I'm saying like the unique abilities for every smoke character. He can throw it from across the map, and they last a decently long amount of a decently good amount of time. The problem with it is they're hollow. So whenever I see an omen smoke when I'm trying to take a site or retake a site, that is like my ticket to say, okay, never mind, I'm just gonna push this, and whatever's on the other end, I'm gonna frag out.
yeah.
And especially if you're playing someone like Phoenix, you could just flash out of it. You're not going to be flashed. Who's ever on the other side of it's going to be flashed.
Mhm.
So I don't know. His smokes are essentially an invitation for me to push.
Yeah.
I'm not like a brimstone smoke will stop me from pushing through it. 7 times out of 10. And omen smoke is inviting me to push through.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know the exact timing on it, but I know that there's some sort of animation behind him throwing out his smokes. And
Yeah.
just like there is Brimstone, where you pull out the little fucking the wristwatch and you type it in, but it just goes down after that with Omen. Like you're sitting there with your hands like with your pants down and like throwing it in. I think you can get timed relatively easy on that. Once again, I don't know the exact timing, but from watching people play him, I think that might be the case. But I don't hesitate to push through Omen smokes by any means. But that being said, again, I feel like I'm going to say this a lot. If you're able to combo his abilities with other agents' abilities, it could work. If you were to, I don't know, that's a three-person combo, but like you smoke something off knowing that a team's behind it, just waiting for it to go away after Omen through his smoke. You have Sage ice in so they can't move, and you know that they're there. You could fucking Sova blast through it. I don't know. There's or Bruno with his Hellfire. I mean, there's ways to combo a lot of people, but he's one of the few that can actually stop people. Not everyone, but I guess he can make people take a second. You can capitalize on it.
He like his teleport isn't even that good either. It's too short of a distance. If they, I'm trying to think of ways, like we thought of ways for them to buff Jet to make her more applicable to a team environment. To buff Viper, they need to probably give her one more smoke, maybe allow her to pick up or adjust her wall, and I think that makes her a little more viable. Jet, make her smokes last longer. That makes her a little more viable. Omen, to make him more viable, they need to make his flash more consistent. They need to make his flash more consistent. They need to lengthen the area in which he can teleport to. And then I still think his ult is too gimmicky, and that's something that they're going to have to just adjust at some point.
I think with this ult, it's very gimmicky because of the animation that happens when you're
Yeah,
popping back up. Like you like come from the ground up and like your smoke twirls around and stuff. It's gonna be a fine line with that. If they were to buff it, it can't be where you immediately pop up. You have to give enemies like some sort of opportunity to see that that's
yeah,
where you're going. But I think if they speed it up a little bit, it could work more because it's easy to get popped while you're still forming.
yeah, yeah. I mean, really, the only thing I see from it, other than the two opportunities you get on attack from like getting bomb, teleporting to the other bomb site, is to bait the enemy team into like, oh, never mind, let's fall back to CT and see if you went there, and just not actually teleport to it. That's the only thing I can see from it. All right, I don't think I don't think there's anyone else that falls into C tier. I think everything's just like S tier and
There's gonna
down
be a
at this
bunch.
point.
There, there's gonna be a bunch that fall into B right here.
You think? I
Yes,
think I think like half of the characters in the game fall into S tier.
I mean, all right. So let's open this conversation. Where does Raze come in?
I think Raze is probably pre nerf. She was A tier. Post nerf, she's probably B tier. I think she follows the same mentality as Jet, where it's like if you have a person who can frag on Raze, they're essentially the fifth spot on your team because of the
Yeah,
damage output.
yeah, but like, all right. So you had a pick, right? Are you gonna go Phoenix or are you gonna go Raze?
Personally, Phoenix. Well, it depends on the
Personally,
team
me too.
comp. It depends on the team comp because if we already have a breach, you don't necessarily need a Phoenix.
Okay, so your team needs a DPS. Who you picking, Phoenix or Raze?
Raise 100% of the time.
See, I'm going Phoenix on that. I would rather have the whole run it back ultimate to be able to get information if I can't kill anyone, rather than have a rocket launcher that like just blows people to smithereens because one shot and you're done. Granted, you could do some huge damage with it, but I like the ult on Phoenix as well as having the flashing ability. You're able to help your team a little bit more than just having someone who can shoot a rocket launcher.
I think when it comes to information gathering, there are still clearly two better agents in the game at
Oh yeah,
information gathering, and that's Cypher and Sova,
yeah,
which
no, I
is
agree.
why I don't always see why Phoenix is a viable option. I think his run it back is absolutely like I don't want to say it's probably better than Sova's information gathering just because you consistently get information from it. If you just charge down mid on a split, you're going to get two people shooting at you every single time and you have the potential to get a kill from it. When it comes to like Sova's information gathering, not as much unless he has his ult. So I guess the debate here is between Phoenix and Raze for A to B tier. You think Phoenix should be A tier. I think Raze should probably be B tier, and Phoenix should also probably be B tier. But
I think from like a trading standpoint too, it's a numbers game. A lot of the time, you want that entry frag. So if you have Phoenix, like regardless of even if you're using the ult, you're able to flash around a corner and you're able to blind someone and get an easy trade that way. And let's throw it back to the no pun intended to his ultimate again. If you're charging down mid of whatever Haven and you have your teammate like right behind you, as soon as you run around that corner, because you're stomping, you're not walking with that ultimate out, they have to pick someone to shoot at. And if they shoot at Phoenix because it's the first one they see and get traded out, then it's essentially having an extra life because
yeah,
that person's dead and then you just come right back to life and you have numbers just like you had right before.
yeah. I mean, I always whenever I would play Phoenix, I would say, "Hey, I'm gonna alt. I want one person to come follow behind me and just bait my ult.
Mhm.
It's a free death essentially. It's a free life.
Yeah.
Okay. So all right, we'll do Phoenix then. So you think Phoenix should be what, A tier?
I think Phoenix. Mm, I think Phoenix should be A tier. I think Raze
Okay.
should be B tier.
Okay. I can agree with that then. I think when it comes to Phoenix, his curveball flash is useful, but only when you're about to push immediately because you have to curve it around a corner. You have to curve it around a wall. Um, that being said, it's like easy. It's really easy to use. Like it took me a day. The day the game came out, I played Phoenix, and I couldn't figure out how to actually properly
Flashing
flash people.
everybody.
Yeah, it's flashing everybody.
Yeah.
But like after I figured it out, it's relatively easy to get a hang of. Um, that being said, it's such an easy flash to like sidestep though. That's the problem. For a defender, like if you see it coming around the corner, you just press a key to the you move to the left behind a wall. You don't get
Yeah.
flashed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference between Phoenix's flashes and Breach's flashes. Phoenix's flashes are to set up for an immediate push that he can participate in. Breach's flashes are for like a further distance flash potentially for your team to engage off of. I
Yeah.
think and I think that's more important in a team setting, but
Because you don't
so
have to be
they're
in the
not
fight
bad.
to use it. With Phoenix, you have to be in the fight to like
Yeah.
benefit from it. With
Yeah.
Breach, you don't have to be in the fight. You could do it from across the map.
I
Not
think
literally across the map, but like away
yeah,
from your team.
a distance.
Yeah.
I think the rest of his kit, I think his wall is pretty good as well. There's a lot of good plays that you could do as an entry Phoenix, where you throw up the wall, you split whatever you're trying to take, and you flash through the wall because you don't get flashed through it. Who's ever on the opposite side gets flashed through it, and you just jump through and frag it. Oh, I learned this the hard way over the weekend, and I played a fair amount of Phoenix. I was holding B site on what's the one with the teleporters?
That is.
I can never remember
Oh my
the
god.
names.
Bind.
Bind. I'm holding backside B uh, as Cipher, and Phoenix apparently killed the one person that was left on A, and he came from CT. He threw his wall out from CT. I'm back of sight, so I'm like, okay, he's probably gonna go to front of sight now. He flashed through the wall. I was full blind, and he absolutely fucking destroyed me. And I was like, great, now I know I can do that.
That's a
I
really
think
cool play. I know that.
yeah, it's a really good combo. And I also think his Molotov is pretty okay, but I think as a whole, his kit comes together very well in the fact that he can heal himself with both of his fire abilities.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's
that's
huge. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
That's why I agree he should be A tier because he specifically doesn't have to rely on a sage to heal him. He can heal himself. And you get his Molotov back if you get 2 kills. All right, so we can
Yeah.
agree. And his ultimate. His ultimate is very good at information gathering. It creates the ability to get an easy trade, and you can make plays afterwards. All
Mhm.
right, so we'll keep him A tier. I guess we could talk about Raze now.
Yeah.
Raze
So,
is
yeah,
probably the 6th spot or the 5th spot in any team comp, in my opinion,
yeah.
just for pure damage output.
Yeah, you get your damage output, and then like Pete just said too. I mean, the Bombay alley is very beneficial to be able to get intel if someone's around. It won't get people if they're like up on high places or anything like that. But if you can kind of size up another team's comp, or like Omen's dead and Jet's dead and Sage is on a different site, and you throw your bomb buddy, you know that they really can't be on top of anything. So you're able to get good info that way, and it's like on Bind where you're on B site and you have long, and sometimes it's tough to see because you don't want to necessarily peek that because like shoulder peeking really doesn't work in this game. So if you throw your bomb buddy down there and it just bounces off walls all the way down, you know that long is clear for the most part. So you could probably start pushing down there and either like hook to hookah or go to A if that's happening. So I think her intel is there, but her strong suit obviously comes from her damage output because you have grenades, you have a rocket launcher, and your bomb buddy is her bomb buddy has killed me plenty of time.
Yeah. It's a good
But
bait. It's a good bait mechanic. Like you throw it down. If it finds somebody, you follow up behind it. And once they're aiming, it's all about aim reset at that point. Because it coming from a Counter Strike background, you're supposed to be aiming at head level every single time you're about to take a fight. Every time you're turning a corner, your crosshairs should be at where the enemy's head should be. If a bomb buddy comes around the corner, you have to adjust your aim to the ground and shoot. And if you if you're playing Raze and you turn the corner as they're aiming down, the adjustment from aiming at the floor back to the head is more significant than what you would have to do in turn. So you should win that fight. You
yeah,
know, if you're pre-aiming correctly.
you should. So now I'm like thinking back what I said as we talk about it more. So as I was talking with Phoenix has run it back about how you're able to trade it out. It's pretty much the same thing with the bomb buddy. You can send your bomb buddy with someone
Yeah.
and have them shortly behind it. As soon as you hear gunshots at the little robot, you swing the corner and it's an object. It's not a person. So you don't have to really risk a life that way, unless for some reason they shoot at you first instead of the bomb buddy, which the bomb buddy's gonna put out damage on. So
Yeah.
the same thing kind of happens. So I'm going back on my word a little bit. I'm moonwalking right now. I think there is a place for raise and comp. I always did think that, but I always thought of it more from just strictly a damage output standpoint. But now that I talk about it more, she does have some benefits. I mean, how many times have you heard like I forget exactly what she yells when she pulls out a rocket launcher? How many times do you just turn around and sprint? You're
Just
like,
run
nope,
away.
nope, nope, nope,
Literally run
nope,
away.
and you're
It's
able.
she's literally all about map control. That's
Mhm.
she's damage and map control. You have your nade at the beginning of a round. If you're playing on split, you throw it into ramen, and you know they either have to fall back or they have to push through. You should at that point be able to know, okay, if there's anybody in ramen, they're backed up now. Or you throw it down, like you throw it in garage or something like that, or if you're retaking a site. It's all about commanding where you are on the map and where your enemies can't be with her, which I think is important, but it's also done better by other better agents in my opinion. And her ult is like the all right, fuck this, I'm going to turn around and run away key. Like that's all that is in my opinion. Her satchel is only good for her. All it does is fucking damage me when I'm not playing her. So, I don't
But
know.
you're
She
able to
has
break down walls easily that way too with their
yeah,
satchels if you're trying to like quick
yeah.
push something. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
she's
think
got
Ray's
unique mobility too. That's another thing. She has unique mobility, but it's all for all the Rays mains in the world. Be happy that you potentially could fit into a legitimate team composition.
for real. The Rays has so much shit talked about talked about it, but like there's not much to say when you actually do fit into a competitive lineup because they're probably happier than a pig and shit at this point. I now that I'm talking about it more, I think she does belong in A.
I think she I think she does too, but like what do we I don't have anybody else to put in B tier. Like everybody else in here I think is viable. Like okay,
I can't put
okay.
Sova in B. I cannot put Sova in B.
Okay, so Ray stays in B. So I put Sova in A. I think Sova is the second best character for gathering information. I think he is actually, in my opinion, he's probably the best counter to a good cipher. Because
Mhm.
if you know where cipher tends to put up their tripwires, you throw the shock dart at it, you know, and it destroys it. Or you use your owl drone, you fly the owl drone right through it, or you can fly the owl drone over it and figure out where the tripwires are. So I played against a good. I'm a fucking cipher one trick at this point, but I was playing up against a good Sova on split, and I was holding down B site, and every single round he would either shock dart a location where the majority of tripwires would be placed, or he would fly his owl. If he shot his shock dart and didn't destroy one, he would fly his owl drone out and destroy one.
Yeah, Sova has Sova's come such a long way in my eyes. When it first came out, I was like, "Why the hell would I ever play Sova?" But then I watch people play. Like I watched Skadoodle play Sova, and it's one of the coolest things in the
He's
world.
incredible.
He's nuts. You're able. So I learned how to do one. I keep talking about bind, but it's probably the only one I know. I know how to set up on a site in bind and ricochet a recon dot off of the wall and have it hook down into hookah to get
Yeah.
information from people on B. Like
Yeah,
that
I saw that. That was live in the T1 tournament. I was watching that. Yeah.
it's one of the sickest things I've ever seen, and you're able to do that a lot. Like, you're able to get information without even peeking by kinda how many, ricochets that you queue up for that dart, but, like, you're able to on split, if you're on A site, before you even peek around the corner, you're able to bounce it off a little piece of, metal and get it, like, stuck in a tree, and it
Yeah.
gives out the whole site. I think there's huge plays that you can make with Sova, and then on top of it, the ultimate is crazy. You're able to blast it through fucking walls, which gives out information and damage, and I've killed so many people just with that.
I'm just like I'm thinking like again as the game progresses, the more frequently people learn the Sova like recon dart, the more frequently they're just gonna play slower, wait for it to land and shoot it before it goes off. So at some point, his recon utility is probably gonna drop. His shock dart isn't. I don't think it's great. Like it doesn't do enough damage. Um, it's okay for like defending if you're like the last person alive and you're in post plant and you're like in a disadvantage position where it's a 1v2, you can't peek because one person's going to be holding it, the other person's going to be sticking it. You could shock dart where the bomb is planted.
Yeah.
That's really the only scenario I see it being useful. The problem, and like the only other one is like destroying Cypher utility. That's as a Cypher one trick, that's what fucks me up the most.
Yeah, I saw a play on Twitter today actually with Sova. I meant to send it to you guys, but it was so cool, and I don't know where it would necessarily come into play. This is like a definitely a clip worthy type play. It was a 2-on-1 where Sova was the last one. Doesn't matter who the two other agents were, and they were both pinching in on A site on split, and Sova stood over the bomb directly above it, shot two shock dots on top of it to blast
It ran
straight up in
away.
the air and ran away. So when they went for the defuse, one of them hit, killed him, and then the other one ran over to defuse it. That one came down and killed him there.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
great.
so fucking funny to see. That like I said, it's a clip worthy play for sure, but you're able to do really cool stuff with that because your abilities don't really well, your dots don't blow up on impact. You're able to bounce them off stuff, which is really, really cool.
I also think his owl drone is probably. I think it's pretty underrated. It's a cipher camera tag, but they can't pull the dart off. It lasts for X amount of time. So if you have your ult and you land the owl drone target, you're almost guaranteed. Like you have to hit it, but you're almost guaranteed a kill at that point
Yeah.
because you see him active. You see the other character that you tagged actively moving through the wall. It's not like you have to hit them with the first alt arrow because you already know it because it also like reveals where they are behind walls. I think that's like a really good combo. I think his alt is good for again. I feel like his kit is good for initially gathering information and then post plant situations where you have to clear like angles that you can't have if you're by yourself. You can't have another teammate clear for you.
Yeah.
Um,
I like Zova. Long story
I do
short,
too.
he's grown on me so much. I've been playing him. I've definitely been playing Zova. He's fun to play. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but you can curve your arrows over walls and you
Yeah,
can bounce them off stuff. I think if you can get really good with Zova, he's very beneficial to have on your team. But
that's good.
I wouldn't put him in
That
that.
just means that means you don't have to play Jet anymore.
I have not played ever since competitive came. I was like, yeah, I'm not a that guy. Sova deserves to be an A only because there's so many other people that deserve to be an S.
In my opinion, it's literally
The
everybody that's
rest.
left.
Yeah, the rest.
Yeah, I think it's everybody that's left. So I think, yeah, I still feel like this is like a reasonable amount of everybody not in S tier, but everybody else in S, everybody else we haven't talked about, it's pretty much S tier.
Yeah.
Um, Breach, I think Breach has the most useful kit in the entire agent list.
Flashbangs
He,
bananas.
yeah, he can flash from a good distance. He has a through wall explosion for people who like to camp corners, which it's tough to pull off, but it's good also for like post plants. You don't have to face check somebody defusing a bomb. You could shoot it through a wall,
Yeah.
and it would kill them in one shot.
So I'm
Um,
not too familiar with Breach. Is the one that you're talking about, is that where the ground cracks and then when it hits you, you shoot in like slow motion?
yep,
Okay.
yep. So his he has two flashbangs that he could shoot through the corner. You have to shoot it through walls actually. You can't just throw it out in the air like Phoenix. It has to be shot through an object, which again the difference between Phoenix and Breach flashes. However, Breach is the character you use to set up the rest of your team on attack and to completely shut down enemies from attacking when you're defending sites.
Mhm.
His flashes are, in my opinion, significantly better than both Phoenix and Omen's flashes. Um, his fault line, which is like the mini version of his ult, is really useful for your team to follow up on. If you're playing bind and you know there's someone who plays U-Haul every single round and peaks U-Haul every single round, you fault line that corner that they peak from on U-Haul, you hit them with it when they peak, and then your team gets the trade easily.
Yeah.
Like it's a mini version of his ult. They get knocked up, they get stunned, they can't shoot, or they shoot but at like 10% capacity, and yeah, it's essentially a free kill at that point. His explosion through the wall is niche, but it has its uses. And then his ultimate, I think he probably has a top four ult in the game, in my opinion. I think his I can't remember the fucking name of it, but he just screams off your feet in a
Yeah. Boom,
Swedish
boom,
accent.
boom, boom, boom.
Um, Attacking with that, it sets up so perfectly for your team to just rush in because you can cover the majority of a site
Mhm.
in that using that ult. They get knocked up, they get stunned for like 4 seconds. Like you hit somebody with that, there's in no way should you ever feel uncomfortable peeking off of that, swinging off of that, and losing that duel. You should never lose that fight
Yeah.
because they're at such a disadvantage.
Does it go on a straight line?
It goes out in a cone.
Oh, okay.
So it starts like more condensed in front of you and spreads out in a cone outwards, and it takes up essentially a whole site. So if you want to take A on bind, you go from bathrooms, you shoot it out at the site, your team follows up through it. Everybody that's on site defending should be dead at that point. You really just have to worry about like Heaven and U-Haul. That's
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, Breach is the only agent in the game that I have not played, mainly because when we play with people, they're already good with him, and I don't really want to like mess anything up, especially since ranks come out. I don't want to be the person that's like not doing anything. And like if I can't get kills, I might as well
Yeah.
tell you where people are. And like I'm not going to
Yeah.
take someone from someone who's actually good with them.
There's
Uh,
a lot of people that think Breach is useless, but it's because they haven't played someone who actually knows how to play Breach. If you
right.
play against a Breach that knows what the fuck they're doing, you will think he's the most broken agent in the game.
Yeah.
Like I go when it comes to my heroes, I go Cypher, Brimstone, Breach, Phoenix.
Hmm.
Like those are the people I play in that order of consistency. Consistently, it's almost always Cypher. Afterwards, it goes Brimstone, Breach, Phoenix. Um, but yeah, overall, I think his kit is the probably the best overall. If not the best, the second or third best. His ult completely stops pushes. You could solo hold a site if you have your ult and stop them immediately
Hmm.
and get easy kills from it. Brimstone is a literal necessity in
Yes.
every single team.
Need
Yeah,
brimstone. I mean,
yeah,
obviously smokes, right? So you're able to throw your smokes down off the bat, and they last 3 years. So you're able to like actually push out onto sites and know where people are going to get kind of pushed towards. But I mean, even if you're not talking about his smokes, let's talk about the Hellfire, which is a bitch. When you rain down your hellfire, it works in you can use it in multiple scenarios. A couple of them that stand out to me is excuse me, you smoke off a certain like choke point, and you know that they're just waiting for it to go away. If you rain down onto there, if you're not going to kill everyone there or some people there, you're damaging pretty much all of them. And on the contrary, if there's another time to do it, it's when you are in a clutch scenario where you know that they have to go for the defuse to win the round and you're
Yep.
hiding somewhere. And as soon as you hear that thing click, when they have no time, like don't obviously give in to the fake defuse, but you know that they're defusing it, rain it down on them. It's either going to push them off and you're going to win, or you're going to kill them and you're going to get the win.
You literally, he doesn't need to have an ult, I don't think. He doesn't need to have anything out. If you took out his Molly, his Stim Beacon, and his ult, and you gave him one more smoke, you gave him a fourth smoke, he's still S tier, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just because he has the best smokes in the game, he could deploy them from halfway across the map. It's just easy point and click. This is where they're gonna land. Instead of like Omen, you have to gauge where it's gonna go. Phoenix, I mean Jet, you have to gauge where it's gonna go. It's this is where I want this smoke to be. This is where it's going to be, and it's a full smoke, so it's not hollow like Omens, where it's less likely people are going to push through it.
Yeah.
You could take away the rest of his fucking kit, give him balance that by giving him one more smoke, and he's still S tier in my opinion.
I agree. You can't see a thing in his
No,
smoke. Like Omen, you go through and like you can still see your gun and kind of what direction you're going in. But Brimstone, you literally have no idea where you are. You have
no,
no clue. So you're not going to push through that. And if you do, you have the best aim in the world. You're shroud and you're able
yeah.
to kind of bounce back. But if you're just like a middle of the road player, there's no chance or no reason you should be pushing through that.
His the rest of his kit, I think the most underwhelming part of his kit is the Stim Beacon.
Hmm.
It's it's okay to use. I like it's sometimes it's even bad to use. Like it's good to use if you're getting hard pushed by people. Say you're holding mid on split, and you're like heaven side, and they smoke off rope room, and you know they're gonna try to push you heaven side. You throw down a stim beacon. You theoretically should have the upper hand because one, you have high ground there at the bottom of the stairs. Two, you shoot faster. You shoot, I think it's like 10 or 15% faster. The problem with that comes from people who don't know how to control spray and don't like adjust to spray patterns because there's inconsistency after like the seventh or eighth shot. It's good because you're essentially outputting more damage at a faster rate.
Hmm.
The problem is people who can't control their spray, it actually puts them at a hindrance because they're hitting that inconsistent randomized spray pattern faster than they normally would.
Yeah. It gives off.
So that's like the one thing that I don't like about his kit. Even I actually use it. I use it for fakes. Like if I'm retaking a site, like say I'm retaking a site, I'll throw the stim beacon at the top of a window, like the top of heaven, so it makes them think like I'm standing in it still heaven, and I'll go through CT instead.
Yeah.
I'll use it as like a decoy. Like that's what it is to me. It's a decoy grenade from Counter Strike. It's not actually that useful.
Yeah, I see it working like this the stim beacon. If you have to be in one spot, they know you're in one spot and you know it's just a gunfight to see who wins, then I see putting it down. But if you're gonna throw it down somewhere that like they don't know you're there yet, just to be in it and be ready, they know you're there. So if
Yeah.
you can't hit your shots, you're fucked. But I see it working on a fake out. Like you can fake, you could have like your teammates pop into it if they don't see you, that works, but I don't see it as the most useful thing in the world. If you're able to control your spray in that thing, though, it shreds.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that it shreds.
You know how they make it actually useful?
Mm.
They make it a super low AoE heal.
Hmm.
So Sage wouldn't be the only healer in the game. You throw a Brimstone Stim Beacon down, it slightly increases your like shot speed, but it also heals you for like 2 HP each tick over like 10 seconds. So you
I
get
like
like
that.
you get a subtle heal out of it, and you also get an increase in fire rate. That
I don't
that
mind that
makes
at
it
all.
that makes it useful in my opinion.
It would be good to have
Otherwise,
multiple healers. That's
there will be.
yeah.
There will be for sure. His Molly is okay. Um, I think it's slightly better than Phoenix's Molly. I
Hmm.
think it does slightly more damage. I think it lasts longer too. But the caveat is, I think you have to. I think it has to bounce at least once before it breaks. I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
like you can't for Phoenix's Molly. You could just throw it at the ground and it spreads. For Brimstone's Molly, if you try to shoot it at the ground, it bounces once, so you have to bounce it. Um, and then his alt, his orbital strike, is similar to Ray's. It's all about dominating map control, and that's exactly what that is. And it's perfect for post plants if you need to stop a defuse. It's great for uh, pushing people out of an area on a site or somewhere that they're holding, similar to his smokes, but this physically forces them to leave that area. Smokes they could just hide behind. Um, yeah, he also has like a very good kit overall.
Yeah.
S tier, easy.
Yeah. 100% S tier.
He'll fucking always be S tier. That's never gonna change.
Oh, like you said, just with smokes, he's S tier.
Yeah, you need it. You need to have his smokes on attack, or you're fucked. You're
Mm.
not gonna. You're at a disadvantage every time, pretty much.
Oh, 100%.
All right, on to my one true love, Cipher. Easy S tier for me.
Oh,
Easy.
he's the best agent in the game.
I think he is too. I think there's just so much that you can do with his kit. It his kit alleviates so much pressure on the rest of your team. You know what I'm saying?
You can
Like
solo hold a site.
you don't even have to the thing is you don't even have to solo hold the site. You could stack three on split. You could stack three people in mid and two people on A as long as Cypher has his setup on B.
Yeah.
Because you have a camera there to tell, okay, they're pushing out a garage right now. If they're pushing out a garage, you have tripwires set up and cyber cages set up to slow them down, so the people in heaven can easily rotate. You don't even have to have a person on the site.
And I mean, you don't even have to have your tripwire hit anyone. As soon as it gets destroyed, it gives
You
off a
know,
sound cue. It was like my
it's
tripwire has been destroyed, or whatever he says. And
it's
you,
information.
yeah, yeah. And then obviously his camera. I don't know how much more nerfing they're gonna do for it, like spot wise. But I've been watching Hiko, who plays Cipher, and the cameras that guy is able to find like off the map and like completely hidden. It's crazy. So if you could take advantage of those quote unquote nerd cams, he calls them,
Yeah,
you can literally they'll never find them. They will
you
never
don't
find your camera.
you don't even have to though. That's the thing. Like you immediately get information is if somebody walks in front of it. You know where at least one person is if they shoot it.
Yeah.
You know where at least one person is if they destroy your tripwire. It's every part of his kit is built on information gathering, except his cyber cage, which, in my opinion, I think a lot of people don't use his cages correctly.
Hmm.
I use it as like a peeking tool, especially on attack. If I'm attacking as a cipher, which I normally do because I'm a cipher one trick, you throw out the cage, it's hollow in the middle. You don't get slowed. You and your team don't get slowed when you're walking through it, but the enemy team does. You walk into it, you walk through it, and you can peek through it pretty easily.
Yeah.
When I'm holding with it on a site, I always put it on top of where one of my tripwires is because it makes it that much harder for them to see where the tripwire is.
Yeah.
And once they're caught in the cage, they're stuck in a tripwire, they're outlined behind my cage. I don't have to peek into it to kill them. I can kill them through through the cage. But after I kill the first person, then I peek into the cage to see if there's anyone else there.
Yeah.
It's like
Those are huge.
everything.
That
Every part of his kit is I think balanced perfectly too.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. The combo of his tripwires and the cage, you just blast through the cage. You
Yeah.
don't even have to do anything. You like obviously you could even do it behind walls, like they're in hookah, and you have a cage right at the window and a tripwire behind it. They get stuck. You just wall bang through the
Yeah.
side of hookah, and it's easy money.
You don't have to do his camera. Even if it gets destroyed, I think it's like a 35-second respawn timer. Even if it gets destroyed, it's information gathered. You're tracking the person through a wall.
Hmm.
I use it on attack for both information gathering and then baiting. So similar to how Raze throws her bomb buddy out, the person's aiming at the ground when they're trying to kill the bomb buddy. If you throw a camera higher up in an angle that you're about to peek, Same exact scenario plays out. The person has to adjust their aim higher to shoot at your camera, and then you peek around the corner right after they destroy the camera, and you have the advantage because they have to make the longer adjustment.
Yep.
So that's how I play that on attack. Um, Even on attack, a lot of people think that he's a like defense only agent, but even on attack, you throw your tripwires behind you if you're trying to split a site or if you're trying to like hard push a site. You throw all of your utility or your tripwires behind you because I still think the cages are pretty good for taking sites and like blocking off line of sight. Um, you automatically know if someone's flanking.
Mm-hmm.
Like you will know if someone's flanking. You'll have the information right there. I always throw my camera up behind us just to peek every once in a while to see if like maybe they jumped over a wire or something. But like he's a necessity on defense just for the fact that he alleviates so much pressure on the rest of your team, and I feel like he's a necessity on attack because the maps are so much smaller in this game. In my opinion, the maps are so much smaller in this game than Counter-Strike, where pushing from one site is almost a consistent thing in every single match.
Yeah.
Like
And
Haven, for instance, there's always a person pushing from A on Haven.
oh,
Always.
yeah. And I mean, we can't go without saying his ult is sick too. It shows you where everyone on the map is. So you're able to kind of work out your game plan that way. If you want to rotate where the people are, it definitely helps. And you take your little hat off, which I don't know why I find it so funny that like you actually take your hat off and throw it down, and then your Cypher has no hat on. He's just
He's gonna
bald.
have.
Yeah, like I don't know why I
I
find
think
that so funny.
I think his ultimate is probably the second best. I think it's for alt wise. I think Sage's ult is the best. I think Cypher's ult is the second best, and Breach is probably the third. And then contradictorily, Phoenix is probably the fourth best, and he's on A tier.
Yeah.
But he gets outclassed because of Brim Smokes. But yeah, his ultimate, it's all about all about information gathering. You get a kill. The problem is you have to be you have to be really fucking close to the body to throw your ult down, and for it to trigger. And there's a time in which it like ramps up and then it shows you the location, but it shows you their location for like 2 seconds, the whole enemy team, and then it's all about figuring out what to do from there. So the way I look at Valorant compared to Counter-Strike, Counter-Strike has specific setups and executes when you're trying to attack.
Mm-hmm.
So pre-round like determination of what you're going to do that round is significantly more important in Counter-Strike. However, mid-round adjustments are way more important in Valorant because there's so many different ways to gather information.
Yeah.
So like when you're attacking in Valorant, you can come up with we're gonna go we're gonna split push B on, or we're gonna split push C on Haven. All right, that's a good way to start a round. But once you gather enough information, you could find out like, there's 3 people stacked in mid, and they hard stacked over onto C side. A is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
You find that with Cypher ult, and you stop, you make that mid round adjustment, and you completely backtrack and go into A. That's why I feel like mid round adjustments are way more important in Valorant than they are in Counter-Strike. In tandem, pre-round determination of what you're going to do is more prevalent in Counter-Strike.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, call me stupid for this, but I feel like Valorant opens up a lot of opportunities to get creative with adjusting by certain sound cues. So, for
Yeah.
instance, on Split, sewers has a water noise to it, so you hear that relatively easy. The footsteps are crazy in Valorant. You can hear them on the other side of the map. It's wild. So if you give off a couple steps in sewers, they hear water. Like, okay, they're rotating A. Like I hear them that way, but you could be doing something completely different. Like, in say you're playing, what's the 3? Haven, is it Haven
Haven.
the 3 one?
Yeah.
So when you're walking on B on the wood planks, it sounds like wood. So it sounds like you're on B, but you're able to get creative like that. But you have to do things so much quicker. So like me saying that, it's obviously easier said than done. But the maps are smaller and you can rotate quicker. So you have to get creative with that. Where CS, it's kind of like you go off of footsteps.
Yeah, there are differing audio cues in Counter-Strike too, but I don't think it's as prevalent as in Valorant. And then Sage is also, if there's ever going to be a team, like a core that you need for any team ever, it's going to be always Brimstone and Sage. They're always the first two people you need on a team. Breach and Cypher are the best options to continue to round out a team, but you need a Sage and you need a Brimstone.
Yeah.
Sage, because she can full stop pushes with a slow and a wall. She is the only character in the game that can. What's the opposite for punish?
Hail.
Like, what's. Yeah, but like. You get punished for over peaking and taking damage in an early fight.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the word is.
Okay.
I'm thrown for a loop right now. I didn't expect that.
So, so at the start of a round, you take an early peak, you lose the exchange, you don't die, but you're at a health disadvantage. Sage is the only character in the game to rebalance that out.
Yeah.
So you can take those early peaks, you can take the early aggression, and even if you lose it, Sage balances that out with her heal. That's on a 30-second timer, 35-second timer.
That's the word right there, Bob. Rewarded, not punished.
Rewarded.
Rewarded.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the word.
You're rewarded for early aggression.
Yeah.
But Sage balances that out because one, the person who took that early peak got the information, possibly got damage off on the other person, possibly got a frag out of it, and they fall back, get healed by Raze, everything resets. She can stop pushes fully with a wall. She has 2 slows that give information if people try to run through it. If not, they're literally walking through quicksand. And then her ultimate is the best ultimate in the game because it fully resets like an imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a 1v2 clutch, you get a res off, you're now set up for a 2v2.
Yeah. Which obviously is a lot easier. This game is very difficult to go like 1-on-2, 1-on-3. Like to be outnumbered in this game, it's very difficult. It's still in its infancy where like people don't have the best aim. So sometimes you're able to get by, but it's very difficult. So getting the res off, it's literally a game changer.
Yeah, there's just she also probably has the better kit over Breach just for like team wise, but Breach's whole kit is literally focused around a team, which is why like you could solo queue Sage. If you're a good solo queue Sage, people will thank you at the end of every fucking game.
Really?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like nobody's gonna be thanking a solo queue Breach. Sorry, Breach mains, but like maybe
Breach is good if you have a team that knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
that's ultimately what it is.
And if they don't, you're rendered useless because you end up flashing your own team. They don't make plays off of your utility, shit like that. But literally, everybody can play around Sage, unless you have a shit teammate who's playing Sage and slows you on purpose or like by accident. And when you're trying to take a site, it happens a lot. Tone did it to us a couple of nights ago, but it's not a big deal.
If you have a team without Sage, you will lose, in a competitive standpoint.
You're at a clear disadvantage. Like every single time, if you don't have a Sage on your team, you're at a clear disadvantage. Same thing with Brimstone. If you don't have a Sage or a Brimstone on your team, you're at a distinct disadvantage against a team that has a Sage and a Brimstone. So the moral of this story is don't play these 3 right now. Wait for them to get buffed if you're playing with like a 4 or 5 stack. If you're playing solo queue,
have fun.
Jet and Omen are actually pretty okay, I think Viper is still a lone wolf. I think her kit just needs to get adjusted overall.
Yeah.
Omen's probably needs to get more adjusted too, but these are 2 relatively okay solo queue characters. That being said, Phoenix and Raze are better options for solo queue, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if you're solo queuing, you're not doing it to get ultra competitive. Have fun, play who you want. But if you're playing with the team you guys want to win, go through S&A on the tail list. It's necessary. I mean, just watch people who are good at video games, watch their comp and try to emulate it. That's what it is. Steal like an artist. Just see what they're doing. They're doing it for a reason. They've been around the block plenty.
So if you had to come up with the ideal team composition, what would it be? Because I already know what mine is.
So my ideal comp would be Brimstone, Sage. I mean, it's just easy to kind of go off of the tiers because we both talked about it. So I'll go from most important to least important.
Okay.
So Sage most important, Brimstone secondly important, Cypher third, Breach fourth, and then Sova fifth.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's a team comp that I would have no problem running. Mine would go, like you said, Sage, Brim, Cypher. I hate to say Breach because like no team I actually play consistently with ever plays Breach, even though I offer to. Everyone always just says no, just play Cypher. Just play Cypher. Just because like I played him the longest, I understand this kit the best. But like I have no problem playing Breach. I still think Breach is very important, but I don't think he's super essential until you get to like the highest level of competitive.
Yeah.
Like once you start hitting plat and diamond, you should definitely have a Breach on your team. I think until that point, the main three are Sage, Cypher, Brim, and then I think Sova is actually a good pickup because the more information you can gather alongside Cypher is always beneficial. And then I think you can discuss between Phoenix and Raze. In my opinion, it goes Sage, Brim, Cypher, Breach, Raze. I think Raze, just for raw damage output, you get enough information gathering with Cypher. You get the healing components and the resurrection and like the map control with Sage. You get the smokes with Brim. You get the executes with Breach. And then I think to round out any team, I think Raze is actually the best fifth option,
Mhm.
just because of raw damage output. I know a lot of people are actually running a Jet as a fifth too.
Really?
So
So I think when it comes to the fifth person, if you're already covering all your bases, play who
it
you're
doesn't matter.
comfortable with because if you're the fifth person to pick, chances are like you're the slayer on the team. Like you play people that you get kills with. So just play what you're comfortable with because you're obviously in that position for a reason. So I guess when it comes down to there, that's where you decide between your Phoenix and Rays. If like those are yours, I mean, if you're comfortable with Jet, go for Jet, but I think you're doing your team a disservice to run Jet when you have Phoenix and Rays available.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right. I'm looking forward to more agents being released.
Me too. I forget how many they said off the rip. They said 12 or maybe 12. 1, 2, 3,
What, upon release? There's 10 right now.
yeah, I think there's 12. I could be wrong though. Don't fact check that, but there's more than what's on here, I
10,
believe.
yeah. So they're looking for 12 at release. It's Riot, so they'll continue to release more. I'm positive. I want to see another healer. That's it. I don't care about anything else at this point.
It's necessary. I mean, if they're going from like an Overwatch type of standpoint, at least you had the ability to pick multiple heroes. You can go your Zenyatta, you can go to your Lucio, you can kind of get creative with that.
Yeah.
But on this, I mean, if you want a healer, you have to go Sage. So I think with time, they are going to introduce someone else to heal, like you said. It's Riot, like you said. It'll
Yeah.
get trickled out, and people will go all gung ho about them. I hope they have really good cinematics. I feel like these characters, like if they give them lore, could be really cool.
Yeah. I know they're talking about lore stuff too, but they definitely should do what they do with League of Legends and give them like 6 cinematics. All right. You got anything else on the tier list?
No, sir. Just play video games, man.
Just play video games. You heard it here first. Just play video games, man. And Jet means pick somebody else up, Chris.
Reconsider.
Uh,
Stop talking about me like that. I don't play her anymore.
all right. Yeah, fuck it. I think I'm gonna call it, and maybe I'll go live after I eat dinner. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody.